Who's gonna let people enter?
We got it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you. Go ahead, Luke.
Oh, hold on, Luke, just 1 second. If we can just start out by saying today is September the 10th, 2023, and this is Ancient Secrets Community Call. And this is information for educational purposes only. And we advise if you're having a medical issue to call your professionals, or we can hook you up with a link to call Vaidya for professional information. So with that, we're going to turn it over to our host today, 𝗬𝗢𝗘𝗧𝗦.
We're going to have an interesting, inspiring day today. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer as more people are coming in. So the topic of today, after we do some music and meditation, is spiritual personal awakening. And what is it? How does it come about? I'm going to tell my awakening story from about 5 years ago, and then open it up to sharing so people can share their own awakening experiences, and just make it a fun, inspiring day of letting ourselves hear each other's stories of their awakening experiences. So that's what we'll be doing today. Probably have some announcements. We're ending at about 9:15 Pacific time to give us a few minutes to get ready for the first day of Miracle Experiment Game, and also going to our pods. Everybody should have received emails by now, if you're in Miracle Experiment Game, from your mentors, and the links that you need to do to get into your pod group after the main meeting today. So does everybody have that? Is everybody clear on, if you're in Miracle Experiment Game, what to do after we have the main meeting today? Yeah? Okay. All right, good. So we're going to start out, as we do often every week, with moving from our heads to our hearts with some wonderful 𝗬𝗟𝗡𝗧𝗏 music. So Jana, do you have that? Or Carol, do you have that?
I have that ready.
Okay, great.
So everybody, if you'll put your feet on the floor, be in the center, be in your body, feel your body, connect to whatever presents you.
We don't hear anything.
You don't hear it. Hold on just a second. It's always so wonderful to be able to hear his music. Luke, go ahead.
So that's always such a beautiful way to start our get-togethers with Gary's music. And now that's going to take us right into a beautiful meditation experience that Heidi Woods is going to do for us. So Heidi, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke, for inviting me here today. Hello, everybody. So good to see your beautiful faces and to connect here. And each time we drop from our heads to our hearts, it's an invitation to really connect with our spirit, which we'll be talking more about today. But what I'd like you to do again is, if you're in a comfortable seated position, just begin to anchor into your awareness. If you'd like, you can place one hand over your heart. Can gently close your eyes. And I want you to begin to bring your awareness to your heart center. So with that hand that's over your heart, we're going to draw in 3 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So begin to draw that breath in. Feel that expansion in your chest. Exhale, this beautiful release. Again, another breath in. Breathing into your chest. Exhale out. And on the last breath here, I want you to see this beautiful clearing as you exhale, this beautiful space around your heart center. And as you bring that awareness to your heart center, I want you to envision a beautiful flower. This could be any flower of your choosing. And as you envision this flower over your heart, I want you to imagine we are all gathered together around a beautiful garden. And each one of you represents that flower. And as you begin to open this beautiful flower of your heart, I want you to think about the conditions that it took for that to open. It was enough sunshine, it was enough water. The soil conditions were good. And I want you to imagine that a storm may come, or the wind. And this beautiful flower that has just opened is now at risk, potentially being damaged. I want you to invite a beautiful golden light around this heart. This is the protection, and that nothing can damage this beautiful flower of your heart. And that it's safe to open, and it's safe to share with others this beautiful gift. So whatever flower you chose, I want you to imagine, as we're all gathered here together, that you go and place that sacred flower into this mandala that we all create together. And you see all of this beauty now combined, all of the different colors, this spectrum. And that when you share this flower of your heart, you're sharing the beauty of who you are. and that you can become this living sanctuary for the safety of your own heart. So as we close here, let's take 3 final breaths. Big, deep breaths into our heart center. Again, on the exhale, releasing, imagining a clearing. Two more breaths here at your own pace. And then you can gently bring your awareness back to the body, back to this beautiful space we're all gathered. And as you gently flutter the eyes open, I want you to see the beautiful garden that exists here today. All of these beautiful flowers. Thank you, everybody. I love you and I'm with you.
Heidi, thank you so much. So beautiful as always. Even your voice, you have a tone of voice that lends itself towards relaxation. So between your energy, your voice, and everything, it's absolutely so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I just want to mention once again, since more people are on now than we started in the beginning, just a reminder that right after our main call here, which will be ending at about 9:15 Pacific time, we will have a few minutes to then do what we need to do and then come back to our first day of our miracle experiment game, which starts 9:30 Pacific time. Everybody should have received emails by now about this with links back to this, which is the same link as we use for our main meeting, but also afterwards a link to the meeting with your pod. And so if you haven't received that, put into chat. I noticed one person did put it there. So Cornelia,
I've already taken care of it, Luke.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carol. So I just want to mention that's what's happening. So we're going to move into now talking about and sharing. We're going to be doing a lot of sharing today.
Luke, do you mind if I say something before we move into
Please.
that? Okay,
Yes.
yes, absolutely. I just wanted to say, Heidi, thank you so much. And it was so amazing to be able to open my eyes and see this beautiful garden. You guys are all so beautiful. I'm really tender today. I'm sorry. But I just wanted to remind everyone why we are here. You know, why do we come to this beautiful gathering every single week to share of this love and the openness of ideas? And it's because of this book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. You know, Dr. Clint G. Rogers spent 10 years with Dr. Pankaj. And in writing this book and sharing his heart and the love that he had for his father, but also what exists inside of this book is awakening, because he awoke to a new way of life, a new way of healing, a new way of seeing the world. We come every week to share the principles of this book. It's not just Ayurveda that is in this book, it's Siddha-Veda. And what this touches on is it touches on every aspect of life. When you go through the 6 keys of Siddha-Veda, it touches on every aspect of life. And one of the things that Pankaj Naram said was 90% of disease is caused by unresolved emotion and childhood trauma. And a lot of the reason why we join, at least I think there's a lot of reasons why we join every Sunday, but we're getting to clear out some of those distortions that we've had in our lives and come to a place of love. And this gathering seems to be a flagship of love. So thank you for the love that you share. Thank you for your beautiful flower that you've presented that creates such a beautiful garden right here in this moment. absolutely incredible. So Luke, go ahead.
Thank you,
Just take it
Jana.
away.
It was such a beautiful lead into what we're going to be talking about today and sharing, which is awakening and how that relates to ancient secrets. And as Jana mentioned, this whole movement started because Dr. Naram had his own awakening. And if I remember correctly, I think a lot of that happened after he was cleaning all those toilets, which 𝗵𝗲𝗡𝗚𝗡𝗧 told him to do. And he had an awakening because he was an Ayurvedic teacher. If you remember the story, he was not doing well. He didn't have any patience. He was physically unhealthy, overweight, and so on. And by meeting his teacher, 𝗵𝗲𝗡𝗚𝗡𝗧, and having his teacher put him through some things like cleaning all those toilets, it actually inspired an awakening experience for Dr. Naram. And I'm going to read what awakening is. So I want to be clear that everybody understands what we're talking about when we say awakening. It isn't just a psychological thing in your brain. It's a physical, palpable transformation, even transcendent experience where you go from being one person, one being to another. That's what we're talking about with awakening today. And I want to start out by reading what Cornelia wrote in the newsletter, whether you've read it or not, I want to read this because it clearly explains what we're talking about when we say personal spiritual awakening. So personal awakening, often referred to as spiritual awakening or self-realization, is the moment when an individual experiences a profound shift in their perception of themselves and the world. It's a process of self-discovery, introspection, and growth that leads to a deeper understanding of oneself and the world around them. It's a realization that goes beyond the surface level of existence and delves into the core of one's being. This awakening often leads to a heightened sense of awareness, purpose, and connection to the universe. Many in our community have shared that reading the book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer, and or attending the Ancient Secrets community calls has shifted their awareness and how they perceive the world around them. So that's what we're going to be sharing today. Now, another awakening experience is Dr. Clint. I mean, if we remember, he went from being a skeptical, egotistical, cynical person in regard to Eastern practices to transforming to the amazing, beautiful, loving, healing being we know him to be today. So there's another example of a deep awakening where you literally transform like a caterpillar to a butterfly. You transform from one way of being to another. It's a cellular experience. So before we start talking about our experiences, I did want to ask if anybody is new here for the first time, if you could just put into the chat, say, I'm new, so we can welcome all the brand new people who've never been here before. So we'll just take a moment. If you're new for the first time here, please put into the chat, say, I'm new. We just take a moment to do that.
And Luke, if you wouldn't mind, if I took another minute. I noticed in the chat that Linda is struggling right now, and I would love for us to send her a blast of love, as well as anybody else who is struggling or needs extra special prayers. You know, if you'll keep that while we're giving, you know, this is a marma. This is a marma, and we are just, you rub your hands together and you're able to just feel that heat and then send your healing energy out through your hands to that person. Linda, we love you. We hope that you breathe easier.
We love you and we're with you, Linda.
Thank you, Luke.
Linda's a beautiful being. I met her in Mount Shasta last year when we had a pulse clinic, and she's a really wonderful being. So we're sending you lots of healing love today, Linda.
We also have a new person. Betty. Betty is new on the call. Would just like to welcome you. Hello, Betty.
Hello, Betty.
Nice to see you.
Betty, if you don't mind, can I ask you to, if you're okay with it, to come on and just mention what brought you here today and why you're here? So can you just unmute yourself and then you could start speaking? And if you want to see Betty, you could put it on speaker view in Zoom.
Okay.
Betty, are you open to doing that?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Betty. We
Hi.
can hear you and see.
Namaste, how are you?
So what brought you here? What inspired you to join us in our community?
Well, my friend Andrea told me about it.
Ah,
She told me it's about miracle experiment. Am I on the right Zoom meeting?
well, you're on the main meeting for our community calls that we have every week. And the miracle experiment game, first one, will be about a little over an hour from now.
Oh, okay, that's the one I meant to be on, so.
You're just in the right place. This is
No,
the setting
That's
of the call. It's so good to see you. How do you know Andrea?
Because I went for a pulse reading in New Jersey, and I met the lovely lady there.
Wonderful. We're so glad. How did you hear about that pulse reading?
Well, I'm on the email because I've been doing pulse readings for a few years now, when I met Dr. 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥 and Dr. 𝗬𝗣𝗙𝗢𝗙𝗢 years ago. So I just, stayed with the emails and the events.
That's
So
wonderful.
we're so happy to have you here, Betty. And yes, you're in the right place. You can stay right here, and we'll be ending this part of it about 9:15 a.m. Pacific time. Take about 10 minutes or so to do whatever we need to do, and then come back at 9:30 Pacific time for our very, very first session of Miracle Experiment Game. So that'll be wonderful. Okay, thanks a lot, Betty. Thanks so much. Thank you. So if you want to see everybody, you can change to gallery view if you like. Okay, so in terms of spiritual awakening and how it applies to ancient secrets, I read what awakening is. And again, it is, it's not like a psychological aha moment. It's a transformational, even transcendent, palpable experience where you transform from one way of being to another. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me tell you about mine, and then I want to open it up for everybody to talk about their own shares of their awakening experience. So I've been practicing spiritual discipline since 1980, continuously, and with two enlightened teachers. One of my enlightened teachers, Rama, he had attained 𝗬𝗣𝗡𝗧𝗦, which is one of the highest levels of enlightenment that you can experience while in the body. And I was with him for 14 years. So through many, many years of meditation and gazing practices and candle focus and yoga exercises and so on, things were shifting and changing in me already. It's kind of like I was, blending into it, but I had this profound transformational awakening 5 years ago. It was during a meditation or right afterwards. Something changed, everything changed in me. And I had this enormous heart opening. My heart just burst open like never before. And I just shifted, and I knew I was changed. I knew something happened that was different. I was the same and yet different at the same time, simultaneously. It was like a merging of who I am as a human embodiment and divine infinite consciousness. So I came out of meditation, and I came in here to my office and sat down at my computer, going to start my day. And I just sat here looking out at the window, gazing outside and feeling this almost sense of poignancy. I've always described poignancy as like a sweet sadness. And I think it was poignant because it felt like almost a death to a human aspect of who I used to be, and merging into something new that was so beautiful and so sweet and so blissful. And then I went about my day, and the days went by, and my meditations changed so much. Every time I would sit down in meditation, it was deeper. I'd have these Kundalini experiences that would shake my body and make me laugh, which still goes on today. But here's one of the biggest things that happened for me. You know, you probably have heard that when you pass this plane of existence, you have a life review, sometimes referred to as a light review. Well, I had that pretty soon after my awakening experience. It's like my entire life went on a movie screen, and I saw everything I've done in my life, including all the hurt that I inflicted on people I love, my ex-wife, my parents, my son, my brother. At the time that I behaved that way, I thought I was justified in my actions. I really did. But now that I was a brand new being, a fresh baby in a way, I looked on these images on the movie screen with horror. How could I have done such a thing? Because that's not who I was anymore. And it still comes up even today sometimes, but it hurts so much. And that was part of my awakening process, to go through that. And to this day, it still happens sometimes. And that heart opening, I think, led me to eventually want to, you probably heard that I helped the homeless a lot in the streets. And I never felt that way before. I was like everybody else. I just passed by the homeless. If they asked for change, I would say I don't have any. I ignored them like most people do today. But a couple of years ago, and this was even 3 years after my awakening, but my heart was opening to many aspects of the world. It made me more empathic, more sensitive to the world energies. So what happened was, a few years ago, my heart just opened up to the homeless. And I had to help them, which is I do every single day, even now. So this all came about. So it's not like, there's different types of awakenings. There's the ultimate samadhi awakening, like 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧 and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗦 has talked about in India and Tibet, where you actually are totally merged with oneness. But there's lesser types of awakenings, like what I just described, where there is a transformation, but it's not like a full samadhi. So how does this relate back to ancient secrets? Well, again, when my friend and dear friend and spiritual brother, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗦, let's see, about a little more than a year and a half ago, told me about the book. I hadn't read a book in a long time, because I had read so many spiritual books in my life. I didn't really need to read another one, but I trusted him, and I read the book, and the moment I started reading it, wow, I mean, it was like a mini awakening. It wasn't like a total transformation like I had before, but still something was taking place. And that, on top of the awakened state that I was already in, catapulted me into this place where my heart opened up even more. And this is the most loving community I've ever been involved in. I've been in a number of spiritual communities. This is the most loving one. So that was another awakening and a heart opening for me, getting involved in this. And so that's my story of awakening. And I'd like to open it up to whoever would like to talk about their awakening experiences. But just remember to keep in mind, it's not an intellectual thing. It's a really transformational experience that you've had that changed you from one way of being to another. So if you'd like to share, please put your virtual hand up so we could see you at the top of the screen.
Luke, while people are thinking about that, do you mind if I share some things?
Oh, please do.
Because sometimes it takes a minute for people to get, oh, except for Cornelius. Go ahead, Cornelia. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, my awakening in a sense wasn't quite as drastic as yours, Luke, but when we did I think it was the second miracle experiment game, and it was, I think, in one of the breakout rooms that one person said one sentence, and it just hit me when this person said, life is not happening to you, but for you. It registered, but at that moment, but it was really when I came out of that room and sat with that sentence, my whole perception for life changed in that moment, because suddenly I realized that I was no longer a victim, because when I say it's happening to me, I'm not in control. But when I'm listening and then hear the word, it's for you, then I'm looking automatically, and that ties into the 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, what happens to me. Is that a gift or not? I'm now looking with everything that happens in my life, what is the gift in it? And that for me changed everything, the way I go through life, the way I meet people, the way everything is happening in my life, just by this one sentence that happened in one of the breakouts room during the 𝗬𝗢𝗙𝗔𝗡𝗧 at that time, the miracle experiment game. And for me, that was really a life-changing experience. And for me, I would say it was a spiritual experience, because life was never the same after that. And I still, when something happens right now, it's always, what is the good thing here? No matter how bad it looks from the outside, I'm always looking for the good. So I just wanted to share that, because that really changed my life.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. That's beautiful. And that's what we're speaking of here, going through a transformational experience. You know, I just want to mention this before I call on Mariana. Even in times of great challenges, like going through health issues, I found that I can call on who I am as divine infinite consciousness, even if I'm going through a terrible time physically, like when I had COVID in bed for 6.5 weeks last year. So what happens is, during this, with an awakening, you are aware that you are both simultaneously this human embodiment and divine infinite consciousness. There is no separation. We are divine beings having a human experience. And like Cornelia says, it changes you. You're never the same again. That's a very, very good point that she said. So with that, I'd like to call on Mariana to hear your experience.
So mine is not one-pointed. It's been happening progressively throughout my life. And it started, which I retrieved years and years later, when I was 5 years old. My dad was assassinated, and I watched 2 soldiers come and tell my mom who killed him. And the 5-year-old in me knew that they were lying through their teeth. And in that moment, I decided I would not recognize any face where the person was not congruent inside and out. And I thought, wow, that's a very perceptive little 5-year-old. So fast forward, there were just a gazillion little experiences. But having been born into World War II and having sort of internally lived the Nazi experience, there was always, I didn't realize it, but there was always part of me waiting to die and waiting to die and waiting to die. And in the summer of 2022 was, I would say, was the big awakening. I had chosen not to be vaccinated, and I went to Canada, where I'm also a citizen, and I went armed with papers from my doctor that would excuse a non-vaccinated from quarantine, and I had all the right papers, except my papers were written by a woman who was a nurse practitioner, and the people at the border decided that that wasn't a doctor, real doctor, and they refused my papers and they quarantined me. So for 14 days, and it ended up being 12 days, I felt incarcerated. I went into all the paranoia that one could possibly go into, and very much felt like a yellow-starred person of World War II. And I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. You know, it was a very strange experience. And then on day 12, I said, oh, I labeled this journey. It was a 4-month journey. I had chosen to go back to Canada, where I lived for 25 years, to go back to my birth part of my world. It was supposed to be a journey of healing and coming home. And I said, oh, this is the thing that's plagued me my entire life, aiming towards death rather than life. And I came out of that was like, oh, thank you. You gave this to me. You gave me life. And since then, it's been a roller coaster forward. I was introduced to an incredible book of the 99 healing names of the one love, and they have been teaching me. And 4 months before I met Dr. Clint in Sedona, met you in Sedona. And I've been meditating daily for 50 years. I mean, it's not like I haven't been doing practice, but it's like 4 months before I met you all in Sedona, I had to buy mung beans. I had no idea why I had to buy mung beans, but I had to buy all sorts of mung beans. I bought green mung beans and yellow mung beans and black mung beans and those pink mung beans. And I accumulated a lot of mung beans in my pantry, and I didn't know why. And then I was introduced to the mung bean soup. And that was like, spirit leads me in the most magical ways to get me to where I'm supposed to go. And I've just learned I have to listen. But I realized after that summer experience, it's only, it's just a year ago, that I'm suddenly so full of life and so looking toward life. And so, and like Cornelia, it's like everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. You just look at it, doesn't matter what it is. And at that point, rather than being really angry at the powers that be that incarcerated me, it was like, wow, I couldn't have gotten this in a quicker way. I mean, 12 days isn't a long time to change one's life. So thank you all. It's really a joy being with you. And
beautiful,
beautiful,
Mariana.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a wonderful story of awakening transformation. That was a beautiful, beautiful, inspiring story. Thank you, Mariana. And next we have Anne.
Yes, before Anne speaks, I just want to, for those who are new or watching on Facebook, I just want to remind us that, Ancient Secrets is not a religion. It is, we welcome all denominations. We welcome all levels of beliefs. And so one person's experience and belief about how they have been guided to their awakeness may be different than another's. And we honor and respect and love all of it. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer in there that we welcome everyone and everyone's beliefs. So go ahead, Anne.
Thank you, Jane. I did mean to mention that and I forgot. So thank you that you did that. So next we have Ann Wilkinson. She's going to talk about her experience.
What made me want to speak about my experience is that I was actually contemplating that. I was just recently, I've just been so aware of the flowers and just imagining that the flowers are just singing, praise about miracles. It's just, I don't know if I read something or I read something and then I think I saw something where they put a little electrode onto a flower and it made a song. And I mean, it just, those kind of things really, get me excited and make me want to feel alive. But as far as transformation, when we first started these calls, you guys, I was at the end of a 4-year career stagnation. I had completely unplugged from Medicare, all that stuff. I had spent many months like going through all of my files and all of my, and breaking contracts. And it was like I was withdrawing from the matrix. And you're really not a great state at that point. You're like, like life is hard and I don't want to do this and I'm changing to this new thing. So when I first got on a call, I was fairly grumpy, swollen, inflamed, miserable, high pitta. I mean, all the things, just imagine, and just had really felt like I was a done deal. I was imagining like how I was going to be going out. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. I was a very funky depth of situation that I felt myself in. And even got aggravated by some people, saying they wanted these really cool miracles. And like, how could they even think about these big miracles? I was just lucky if I could say, I'm glad I'm breathing today and the sun is out. Like when we first started doing that, really, I was like scratching and clawing. I was like, I couldn't get up out of a chair without limping. And like, I had pain in my leg for like 1.5 years, I think at that point. And my daughter who had relapsed, my stepdaughter had died of an overdose a few years before that. And her father, even though we weren't together, I was hearing that he was wailing and not doing well and losing his house. And that's the state I was in when this thing started. And then we started doing a little call on the side. There was only a few of us. And we were like, we would practice, like, let's just try making ghee. And we might talk about that for 2 weeks, about all the things we did wrong and upside. We started every little step, just one little teeny bite at a time, but we had each other to say, I spilled it, but this is how I did it this time. And I never thought of that. And I'm not so terrible because I spilled mine. 4 people spilled theirs. Like, you just had the accountability and this camaraderie. And then also like 5 women started to talk. We would might call it like 9:30 at night. What did he say? A TT devil. How did you spell that thing? And then next thing you know, oh, I have somebody else on the line. It turned into this conference call. We would be on there sometimes till 2 in the morning. So we were like learning this stuff with each other in this like womanly red tent-ish type of a way, you know? And I remember even it started to where I would get to the point where if I were to do something, like I would go to drink something I shouldn't eat or drink, I would actually imagine that this group of people that I'm meeting here, what would they think if they heard me swearing like a sailor or drinking coffee when I know it damn gives me heartburn? What would they be like? Anne, we thought you were a smart person. Why are you acting this way? Like, I would imagine what would Cornelia think? What would Jana think if she heard me, if she saw me, you know, not hit the trash can and not go back and pick it up? Like, that's just how my mind started to work, as if, and you have to remember, you guys, we were in COVID lockdown. So, you know, our minds were working very differently at the time. I really was in a little bit of panic. No, not a little bit, like waking up drenched in sweat, not imagining how the hell do you pay a mortgage when you're not allowed to work? Like, but the strangest thing, love is my religion, and I call God Yahweh. So, but I didn't call God Yahweh at that point. I don't know, some strange thing overtook my phone. But when I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, drenched in sweat, and I would try to turn the phone on to see the time, don't ask me how Dr. Clint's video would pop up, and he'd be like singing a song in India. You know, he would be, or, you know, actually even having a vulnerable moment to let you know you're, just because you're not the only person in the world crying and sweating about the thing. Like, it was so amazing, the timing sometimes, that I actually would be like, it's almost supernatural. It was bizarre. And so then I went and did Panchkarma in India. And I was able to, by doing yoga, listening to Dr. Naram's tapes, you'll get my knee and leg back in order. But I just feel like a completely different human being. I just feel like I feel so alive, and like I have so much now to share and to with people on how to live better and be happy. And so my conversation with people is more fun and all. It's not about how, oh, isn't this awful? And can't believe they're doing this and they're doing that. I mean, I have a little of that, but my conversations are way more about like, oh, my mung bean soup is so good now that 10 people want me to make it for them. Like, my conversations seem to always be around what we're doing in our classes and herbs and all the wonderful things that Yahweh gave us to heal. It just, my brain now has a place to use its energy. It wants to know more and more and more about all the ways we can help each other heal. So that's a way better place to be than it's all done and over. My life has passed me by. I missed the train. That's how I started. And now I'm way not that at all. I'm way like, I'm commanding the train. Who's getting on? You know, it's a very different place to be than where I was. So I'm just so grateful for the friendships and the encouragement and giving me information that I can use to encourage other people. I'm such a more grateful being. And where I want to go, though, is as I want to be more constant. I kind of thought we'd get enlightened and like pop, and then everything is great and wonderful, and you're always kind and sweet, and nothing ever bothers you. But it doesn't really happen like that. It's really just like this. Like, I'll be doing really great. My meditation's great, and then all of a sudden, for like a week, I don't want to sit down on the floor for a half an hour. And then but I don't beat myself up about it. Where before I would beat myself up about it. Now I'm like a 𝗤𝗙𝗪𝗪𝗪 myself. I don't feel like doing that today. I don't have to do a regiment, any regiment. There's just a freedom. There's a sovereignty that has come with me being a part of this group. And I'm just ever so grateful. That's my transformation.
Beautiful, Anne. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, you know, Anne brought up a couple of good points, but I just want to mention and referred to before I call him 𝗬𝗨𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗦, you know, this is an embodied awakening. Even the highest levels of enlightenment, like 𝗬𝗣𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗦, and like I said, I was with the teacher Rama for many years, and I was his personal bodyguard. Just because you have even a high enlightened experience or any kind of awakening, it doesn't mean that you don't have all the human aspects, the human challenges that go along with it. Remember, we are emerging of divine infinite consciousness and the human embodiment. And you still, even through an awakening, are subject to your likes and dislikes, your emotions and so on. So I wanted to mention that because Anne brought that up herself. And I've also gone through experiences of meditating and loving my meditation, and then suddenly not wanting to meditate for a while. So I totally get that. So that was a wonderful story. Thank you so
Luke,
much.
can I also bring up I just have been rereading the book again, and there are times where Dr. Clint does that, where he sees Dr. Naram perform these miracles. And then he's like, I need to make sure that this is even right, because in his brain, he went back into the skeptic, but yet he's seeing this and his mind is shifting. And yet he's like, I need to make sure that this is okay for my dad. So what Anne and what Luke are saying are so profound, because the enlightenment takes us down to a path where we have shed old beliefs and we're seeing a new way of life more in aligned with ourselves. And then another package of beliefs come up and hit us in the face, and we don't sit down for meditation, and we don't, we have the negative thoughts towards our family or whatever it is. And it is the Aditi Diva Bhava. That is what Anne was saying. It was, the Aditi Diva Bhava, for those who don't know, is, that word in India it is the unexpected guest that comes to your door, and you treat that unexpected guest as if it is the divine, himself or herself. And in that treating of the divine, it can be an emotion that comes up. It can actually be a person that shows up at your door, or it can be a situation with a life situation, or anything that's unexpected can be that unexpected guest. But that's what happens during the awakening, is we shed a part of us, and then where other things come in, because in my belief, and I don't know, but this is my belief, is my desire is so strong on wanting to be authentic and aligned that these things come up for me to be cleared, for me to be healed. And so anyways, thank you, Anne, and thank you, Luke, and for all the people, Marianne, and everybody that spoke so far. You're touching my heart. Go ahead, Luke.
Okay, thank you, Jana. I know Jana has been reading the book again, and so she's so inspired and touched these days. So thank you for sharing, Jana, so much. All right, 𝗬𝗨𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗦, we'd like to hear from you.
I can't see me, but I hope you can see me. Maybe I should be a speaker. Anyway, תודה רבה, which means thank you, muchas gracias. I love to share with this community, and I have two chances to share, because you'll see interview of I had the benefit of Joseph and Dr. Joseph and Dr. Susan, and then Dr. Clint a few days ago coming to visit. He stopped specially on his way to Nepal to stop and interview me in Ground Zero. So you'll see it, but it's different, because this experience I usually don't share with the public. I shared it with Dr. Susan and Dr. Joseph. I shared it with Dr. Clint. And usually it's not appropriate to share this awakening, because most people, it doesn't mean much to them. But here it's okay, because there's so many people here who had experienced awakening. If I think about the other place where I have it, when I go in few days, in a couple of weeks, God willing, to the center of my spiritual path in the Blue Ridge Mountain, which I would have loved invite Synchronicity, but I have a space only for 40 people, so Synchronicity is too big for them. So when I go there are many people there who have spiritual awakening, but I don't have a group where people are coming from so many paths and so many of, because I talked with many of the people who have spiritual awakening. I won't mention my name, many of them, including, of course, Dr. Joseph and Dr. Susan and Dr. Clint. I haven't seen a group with such a big concentration of people from different paths with different spiritual awakening coming together. So this is my preamble. Now I'll share with you about my awakening. And by the way, I don't see myself on the screen, but it's okay. I can live without. You see me. Oh, that's enough. So I had my awakening in another lifetime. There's no question, because I was brought up in kibbutz where I was bullied by everybody because I was different. I came from another place with a lot of fear. But I remembered being in a place before I was born. And I didn't know the word paradise because it was a secular society. But I knew that this place was different. And I want to go back there. I even didn't want to be here sometimes. Here was very troublesome. And there I remember it was more beautiful. And I have different experience through my life. That it was coming back, inspired me to poetry, but also brought me, the Pandora box was opening. I literally lost it. Was close to suicide and all this. And then the moment of readiness came. I was 20 years old, 28 years old, few years ago, many years ago. And I was with a couple of people in the Sinai Desert, and we were practicing karate. And I noticed there were a few belts below me, but they were faster than me. So I said, oh, they have something. So I meditated with them. And they told me about a spiritual master that gives them energy from long distance. I thought they were taken for a ride. Because I saw people given energy from short distance because I did some healing already, but I never saw somebody. So I didn't repeat the mantra. I just repeat my own mantra. But somehow something come into it. I had some experience, and it exploded 9 months later when I came back to London. I was in a group of people, and we were working on healing the emotional stuff. This group wasn't about the spiritual. It was about bioenergetic, 𝗫𝗓𝗏, all this kind of stuff. And I was the scapegoat, which I was in my life. The group really gave me all the aggression, like in counter style. And when the group left, I was close to suicide because I felt like I had so much self-hate, so much feeling of guilt. And I went out to the street from this center. It was like an open time in the 60s, 70s, that people stay in place like the open center without even noticing that I was there. So I went out to the street and I saw a person, and he had something in his pocket that felt like a gun. And I was afraid that it's for me. It's coming for me. So I said, okay, if it's my imagination, I'll walk to the other side and he will stay there. I walk to the other side and he walked to my side. I said, okay, if it's my imagination, I'll stop and he'll keep on going. I stopped to look at the window and he stopped. I looked into his eyes and he was a bigger man than me, much bigger. And there was blood in his eyes and something in his pocket, whatever it was. So I decided, enough playing around, I'll walk back to the center where I came from, where I walked out. I started to walk fast, but not running, because I sensed that if I run, he'll run after me. And I was ready to throw him out because I was trained in karate and other stuff at that time, if he comes. But I didn't know who is going to kill whom if he come this way, because I had more guilt of 𝗬𝗏𝗡𝗀 than ready to kill someone to protect myself like I. So I was really aware that I can be dead in a few minutes. But I walked fast. Fortunately, when I came to the center, he wasn't anymore behind me. And I was guided to do something different than what people do usually in encounter, because I felt so much power coming out of me. Something was coming. I remember I watched the Ninth of Beethoven, and I was a tree of hate. All of this hate that I put into myself was starting to come out. So I felt, okay, and I can come to the group, but no, I have to lie down. Forget about encounter. I was guided to lie down. So I lie down, and this is a big experience. I lie down on the floor, and all of a sudden, this energy lifted my hands, and I was holding, I hope you can see me because I can't see myself. So if you don't, let me know. So I was lying down, and I could feel my aura here. I could feel this energy. And I took it to the throat, and I can feel my aura now. But at that time, it was like that. it was so blocked from all of this self-hate and fear that I could feel the blockage. But a miracle started to happen. A miracle that now I know was initiated by this moment in the Sinai Desert, which is a different story. I learned it later, that it was from the same master. So, because I even didn't know his name. So as I lie down, because I didn't want to ask. So I lie down, and all of a sudden, I was able to feel the energy inside my throat, and I was able to let go, and I could feel the channels totally opening, one by one. All the channels of my bottleneck, which is many times for many people in the throat. And after a while, it was totally open. So I breathed out, still holding the energy. And believe it or not, I didn't have a need to sleep to breathe in. My air was out and I was in emptiness. I can't give it any name. And bliss beyond words, and no fear that, oh, I'm going to die. Because I breathed out. I know that now by now, like Luke, I have the knowledge by now of yoga, being a yoga teacher, yoga practitioner. I know that it's called kumbhaka, holding the breath, I didn't know at that time what it was. The air was out and I was in emptiness. And after a while, there was a time to breathe. I didn't feel any urgent, oh, I'm going to die if I don't breathe. No, I felt, oh, it's time to breathe back. So maybe I could stay there even longer, but it was time to breathe. So I breathed back, and there was no need for the hands to hold the energy. So the hands fell to the side, and out of my body came a cross of light. Mind you, I'm Jewish, and I never was brought up to love Christ, or in the contrary, I had some kind of mixed feeling about him, like many Jewish people. And on the cross was Christ. And now I'm not going to tell people what Christ they should have, but my Christ on the top had the healer there. But it wasn't of suffering. It was full of light and it was full of joy and bliss. It was beyond suffering. It was transcendent. That's Christ that I saw. He became so big, like a Christ of Salvador Dali that I saw later, like into the sky, and then he exploded the cross, and the entire room became full of light. The light was inside me, the light was around me, and the only two words that I either uttered or said was, Father and Mother, thank you for life. Before that, my relationship to my father and mother was ambivalent because for my experience as a child, they left me. My father died when I was 3 months. A child doesn't know that the father died trying to protect him. He left me. My mother, she sent me away. She was at depression and then she committed suicide. She also left me. At that moment, all of this, all the suffering was worth it because the level of joy was so deep, I can't describe it in words, that I felt if I die now, it's more than I expect. I'm okay if I die now. And then the next word that came, God, thank you for life. Because God, at that moment, wasn't somebody or something. He was inside me, around me, and everything. It was very clear. The light that I experienced is everywhere. It was a little bit more dense in my body, more red and more white around me, but it was the same light. And at a certain moment, I felt I want to give it back to the group because I felt so powerful and I don't have to be the scapegoat anymore in the healing group that I was doing at the time. So I felt this feeling and I could see my energy contracting. And with this came the words, every desire, which we should have, but every desire, there's a little bit of contraction there. Because you are perfect all the time, the way you are. Which I don't experience all the time, of course, because I'm not fully enlightened. Not yet, at least. But at that time,
Beautiful statement. That really is, Nehemiah. Very beautiful
let
statement.
me just finish it. It will take one more minute, half a minute. So I came back, and I was like that and there became one commitment. I want to experience more of it and share with everyone. But I don't share only with people who are ready for awakening. The meaning of my name and the meaning of everyone here, that's a different story, is a 𝗬𝗪𝗡𝗡 in divine compassion. So I share whatever they are ready for. But the moment that is so great, like now, I can share and listen. And all the sharing that was there was so beautiful. So much of what was shared relate to what I could share, like what unshared and what other people shared. So I want to thank all of you because I had never been in a group which come from so many diverse spiritual paths and they're all open. And the only last word I want to say is the word Kabbalah. Kabbalah means to fully, not just forgive and forget, beyond that, completely accept everybody and everything. The 𝗬𝗙𝗑𝗧𝗦, it's the same. And then when we do it, Kabbalah means also receive, because we accept whatever is in our life. And that's a secret of 𝗬𝗙𝗑𝗧𝗦, or Kabbalah, which is the same, two words for the same thing.
Thank
So
you very
thank you
much.
for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Nehemiah. Beautiful, wonderful, inspiring story. I wish we had more time to hear lots more stories of transformational awakening. We have 3 people still that we need to get to, and we have to end in about 15 minutes. So just during your shares, keep in mind, we need to end in about 15 minutes. So Betty, a brand new person here, we'd love to hear from you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I'll go fast. Thank you. So my spiritual awakening began a year after I graduated from college, from high school. I was about 19 years old. And I met a man who was an herbalist, alchemist, and vegan. And he used to give consultations and seminars all over the world, teaching people how to harness the energy of the planets. When we say as above, so below, that's really an understatement, because the sun is governed, everything under the sun is governed by a planet. Every food we eat, every herb, every fruit, vegetable. So he used to teach us on certain days, if you take certain herbs or food, you're going to harness the powerful energy of that planet. And there's an order for all of that, from Sunday to Saturday. So we used to eat like that and take herbs like that and heal ourselves. And it was a very powerful experience, because that's when I was also meditating. And one day I called him and I said, I can feel my arms. And that sounded weird to me, because I knew I had arms, but he explained to me that when the blood is pure, you will feel that spirit, that dual part of you, the spiritual part of you, that is inside of you. You can't feel it because of the foods and herbs that you intake in your body. When you cleanse your blood, you will be able to feel your spiritual self. I mean, I would go to a supermarket and stand in a line, and I felt like I was a dual person, 2 people. I was taking Tai Chi, private Tai Chi lessons. I would walk down the street and feel the energy from my feet go through the earth. I would take yoga and with my private yoga teacher, and we would visualize passing a moon between us, and I could actually see that moon. And I would just say, are these people crazy? What am I experiencing? Even my dreams changed. They were more colorful because of the foods that I ate. I used to line up my clothes in my closet according to universal colors. I would stand in front of the closet and just look at the clothes, and then there's an energy, non-communicative energy that would just communicate with me, and maybe a garment twinkle, and I would say, okay, that's what I'm going to wear today. Plants and trees can communicate with you just by when you're on this path and your blood is at a high purification level. They would just silently, energetically communicate with you. And I felt all that was very, very strange. But I was at the healthiest point of my life, and I was way beyond my time, being only 19, graduating from high school, and just finding my path. That's when I actually got in the spiritual path, and it changed my whole life. So, short and sweet. That's it.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you so very much for that. And Sharon, and then my dear Ramarishi, you're raising your hand, your physical hand. Did you? Okay. All right. This is my dear longtime spiritual brother, Ramarishi.
Oh.
Love to hear your
Oh,
story.
I'm so sorry. Sharon had her hand up first and I put her hand down.
I know, Sharon, did you want to speak? You had your hand up and then you put your hand down.
No, I took it down because you called on her. That was me that did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be very short. I would say that my spiritual awakening is more like a snooze alarm. But I had, when we were living in Taiwan, I was painting one afternoon in a rice paddy on the outskirts of Taipei. And I just had this experience that when you're in the center of your heart, you're connected. It's the connection point to the entire universe. And I sort of had the idea that possibly I wasn't the first person that had ever discovered that, but I didn't quite know what I was supposed to do about it. There's a water buffalo lying there in the mud, and I shared it with him, but he didn't seem too interested. But anyway, that went on for a while. And then when I lived in Tokyo, I was at an Assembly of God church meeting in the Tokyo American Club, which apparently the divine can show up anywhere. There was something that went up my spine, and I didn't even know the word Kundalini until 4 years later. So I'm not someone that has past life experiences. I can barely remember what I've had for breakfast, but anyway, those were a couple of my snippets. So I will defer to 𝗤𝗏 I'm sure he'll say something far more profound.
I just wanted to say thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Betty. Both of you brought in something that was so profound. You know, you said that there's a connection to the universe. And when Betty was speaking about eating the food and having the frequency of that food just be, you know, who you are, and it was so beautiful. And that's what it reminded me of you, Sharon, where you were, you know, in that experiencing, feeling the connection of the universe. So thank you, you two, for sharing such beautiful words.
Thank you, Sharon and Betty, so much. And now we come to my dear brother, 𝗤𝗏. Take it away, 𝗤𝗏.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've known Luke for over 30 years. And so my most profound spiritual awakening, of which there are many, occurred in Switzerland. I was a transcendental meditation teacher, and Maharishi was my first guru, and he held a course in Switzerland. It was 6 months long, and there were 100 men in a hotel, a historic hotel, halfway up the mountain in 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗧, with a spectacular view of snow-capped mountains all around the valley. And this course was extremely intensive, 6 months long. At the peak, we were meditating 16 hours a day, which is a lot of meditation. Normally, I would meditate for a half an hour twice a day, but on this course, we were meditating a lot more. And in addition to meditating 16 hours a day, we were also practicing silence some of the time. We were fasting some of the time, taking cold baths, and it was a very intense process, super intense. And one day I woke up in the morning and I was flooded with bliss. Pure bliss consciousness permeated every cell of my body, every cell. I was flooded with infinite pure bliss consciousness. And then I opened my eyes and I looked around the room, and everything that I saw was permeated by that same infinite bliss consciousness. The walls, the floor, the carpet, the curtains. I went to the window and opened the window and looked out over the valley of 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗧. The trees were permeated with infinite pure bliss consciousness. The flowers, the birds, the mountains, the clouds, everything in existence was permeated by infinite pure bliss consciousness. And then I got dressed and I went out of my room, and I saw all the other men who were on this course. There were 100 of us on this course in this hotel. And I saw that all of them were permeated by that bliss consciousness, but they didn't know it. That was the thing that struck me. Some of them were depressed. Some of them were walking around with frowns on their face. And I thought, wow, they don't realize that their true nature is infinite, pure bliss consciousness, and that it permeates not only them, but everything in existence. That was 2 months into a 6-month course. Now, some people got very depressed on that course, and they actually were sent home because some of them were suicidal. And there was a course committee that met after lunch every day in a circle out on the lawn. And one of my friends was on that course committee that reviewed the cases of people who seemed to be going through psychological problems. And I thought, wow, maybe they're going to send me home. Because he came up to me one day and he said, when you go back to the United States, you need to go to a psychologist because you're not the same person that I've known for 7 years. Because I had always been introverted, extremely introverted. But after this experience, I was outgoing and flooded with bliss, and I wanted to share the bliss with everyone. He said, you're not the same guy I've known for 7 years. You need to go to a psychologist. So I said, do you guys talk about me when you have your meeting to discuss people who are having psychological problems? He said, oh, we talk about you every day. But everyone agrees there's no problem with you. You're just happy. So there's no need to send you home. So that was my big breakthrough awakening experience. And ever since then, my goal in life is to teach people about the siddhas, which leads us to ancient wisdom, the ancient secrets. So my wife and I have dedicated our lives to teaching people around the world about the lives of great Siddha saints. Those Siddha saints achieved the pinnacle of human evolution of consciousness. And that's what Dr. Naram learned from his teacher. So there's an unbroken tradition, an unbroken lineage going all the way back to Buddha's physician, 𝗤𝗣𝗅𝗏, which is exactly the same thing that my wife and I have been dedicating our lives to teaching people about. So when I read Clint's book, it was like, Eureka, Eureka. I have just found the key to fulfilling my mission in life. I've been trying to teach people about the Siddha tradition, but I was missing the actual practical lessons of how each person can attain that ultimate evolution of consciousness. And then I joined this call, this community, and just as Luke and other people have said, this community is the most beautiful community I've ever been part of.
Well, Mauricio,
Probably because
it's okay. I want to thank you. We want to get to Stephanie, but I love your story, my beautiful brother. I loved it. And I love that you told me about the Ancient Secrets book. And thank you so much for your blissful story. Just want to give Stephanie a little chance to speak before we end the call.
Sure. I'm afraid we don't have the time. We have to be out of that room because we need to open up the other.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Sorry, Stephanie.
There. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we're going to end the call.
Sorry, Stephanie.
Thank you for all these beautiful stories of awakening and how it relates back to ancient secrets. So we'll be ending the call now. So and then everybody who is in the miracle experiment game, come back in 15 minutes. And Jano or Cornelia, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just I wanted to say, everyone who is in the MEG, you have hopefully all your link. Otherwise, it's also shared in the WhatsApp group. If you haven't, for whatever reason, not received your email that you should have gotten yesterday with the link for the other call, and we meet again in about 15 minutes in the other Zoom room. And then
Can we rub our hands together
Yeah, I
and
was
just
just
say,
sending
Luke,
it over to
thank you
you.
so much. Thank you so much for everybody who has shared these beautiful stories. What an amazing call. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless, bless, bless.
Well, I
Family.
love
I love
you
you.
and I'm
and I'm
with
with
you.
you.
Love you all.
Love you and I'm with
Love you and I'm with you.
Love
And
you
you
and
have
I'm
said
with
money.
you.
Stephanie, nice to see you.
you and I'm
Love
with
you and I'm with you.
I
love you and I'm with you.
you and I'm with you.
With you.